Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Navis Nobilite. I am Captain Zelnick, and today I am debuting a new ship overview series that I call By Imperial Decree. By Imperial Decree is a series of ship overviews that cover specifically the ships that people who donate to this YouTube channel want to hear more about, learn more about, and get my opinion as to their use. I will go over the rules of the ship, I will talk about its best use within the greater fleet, and I will explain where it came from, some of the history behind it, and why or why not the ship would have gotten into the later, more official books in the future. Now, one very important point, if you make a donation to the channel, it is very important that you send me a message as well. If you find that it's difficult to communicate with me, please come to the Discord server. The link to the Discord server is on the Navis Nobilite channel. You can come and talk to me. I am always referred to as Captain Zelnick. You may send me a PM, and be sure to send an image of a successful donation when you have done it. But today, our very first version of By Imperial Decree has been requested by BFG Noob all the way in Australia, and he wanted me to talk about the Imperial Cardinal class heavy cruiser. Now, this is a particularly interesting ship, partially because of its history in design, but mostly because it is an attempt very early in BFG to make a strong connection between the Chaos vessels and the Imperial vessels. And seeing as I just finished talking about Battlefleet Baka, it is important to point out that the Cardinal class heavy cruiser was actually originally part of Battlefleet Baka. The original Battlefleet Baka fleet list that is in Battlefleet Gothic Magazine number 2. Now, Battlefleet Gothic Magazine is an official magazine, which means that the ships that appear within BFG Magazine are rather more official than most other sources of ship because it was made by the game creators. Now, that does not mean that it is legal for play unless your opponent agrees. And because Battlefleet Baka has a new fleet list that is official, that does not have the Cardinal in it, it cannot be taken as part of the as Battlefleet Baka. Ultimately, the Cardinal class cruiser did not make it into the later renditions of the book. Which is kind of sad because it also shares the fate of, one of my favorite old ships that never really came through, which is the Demon Slayer, which I absolutely adore. But the Cardinal is right here. You can find its stat line in Battlefleet Gothic Magazine, number 2. It is a 190-point heavy cruiser. Now, heavy cruiser meaning it is on a Chaos ship platform. Okay, not an Imperial one, despite the fact that it is an Imperial Cardinal class heavy cruiser. Now, I'm going to read the fluff insert right here, since of course this is paid for and I fully intend on making my money's worth for it. It reads, the Cardinal class heavy cruisers were the original template used for the ill-fated Acheron class heavy cruiser design. The failure of the Acherons was attributed to the use of alien technology in its weapon systems derived from the haunted Portus Cthulhuus. Nevertheless, some doubt has clung to the Cardinal class, and now only a handful of fleets use the type. Only 2 ships were in service in the Bach sector during the invasion of Behemoth, the Sebastian Thor and the Silent Fire. Both left the Bakan battle fleet to the Macraggan War, but the Silent Fire never arrived and is presumed lost in the warp. Sebastian Thor was one in a handful of survivors from the battle. Now, this is a Imperial cruiser. That means if you so desire it, it can only be used in Imperial fleets, not Chaos. Now, that is not to say that in the Chaos fleets you could potentially use a trader version of the Cardinal in Chaos. You'll have to suffer the -1 leadership penalty and all other rules penalties for a traitorous Imperial vessel within the Chaos fleet. Now, let's talk about its stat line. It has a rather above standard Chaos Cruiser stat line with an 8 hits, 25 centimeter speed, 45 degrees turns, 2 shields, 5 up armor, and 3 turrets. Now that is corresponding with the Acheron stat line, and you'll see down here it has a port and starboard, strength 2, left and right, 45 centimeter lance, along with a dorsal weapons battery at strength 6, front, left, right. But uniquely, it has a prow torpedo salvo at strength 6, front, left, right. Now, this ship is kind of, I hate to say it, it's kind of like a sore thumb in a regard, because it is not in the fleet where it would do its most good. Its weapon orientation is situated where it is not in a position to bring forth most of its firepower. And it is designed apparently for a heavy frontal assault with this torpedo, but the speed doesn't permit it to function with good fleet coherency with the rest of the Imperial Navy. Now, how would one use a ship like this? Well, I'm going to describe it for the Imperial Navy and for the Chaos Fleet. As best I possibly can, because personally I have never used this ship. But when it comes to just looking at its stats, looking at its overall speed, maneuverability, and function, along with the 190 point value, I can get a pretty good idea. First things first, for this vessel, 190 points is dirt cheap. It is absolutely dirt cheap to have 45 centimeter lances on a Imperial vessel that are port and starboard, and it is dirt cheap for a Chaos vessel to have torpedoes. So if you do take this vessel, you are definitely getting more than your points value for. The firepower on the side is very corresponding to a Chaos vessel, but it does, on a single broadside, have, at better range, equivalent firepower to that of a lunar, with a Strength 6 weapon battery and a Strength 2 lance. Now, what I would probably end up using this for in an Imperial fleet is basically a rapid berserker. It would want to move quickly across the table and dump its torpedoes into a target, and then try to get out as fast as possible with its enhanced speed, while the rest of my Imperial Navy comes in to clean up the mess. If you have enough ships in order to take more than one of these, you'll need 6 cruisers. That's 1 per 3 cruiser ship. You can put them in a squadron, and like an Imperial vessel, it will be vastly more powerful overall for its point value. This ship, it will lend itself very well for squadroning with a similar vessel. Now, it would be okay alongside an Acheron with these 45 centimeter lances and the Acheron's dorsal 45 centimeter lances, but ultimately, this thing seems to function better with another one of its kind, simply for the synergy of the torpedo. In the Imperial Navy, you may find yourself mixing this thing's durability up with the rest of your standard cruisers. This 5-up armor really is a weakness, because when you are playing Imperial Navy, you have the mindset of the 6-up armored prow, and you're not used to that many vessels with only a 5-up prow. So you may find yourself throwing these things into danger where it's really not meant to be. Another good way to use this in an Imperial fleet is a side flanker, very much functioning as a significantly more expensive but significantly more powerful light cruiser. It has the same speed as a Dauntless, and it has the same torpedo potential as the Dauntless, with significantly greater firepower. You're just paying a full cruiser's price for that level of speed on a ship. Now, using it in the Chaos fleet, it has a very different dynamic, because you could probably end up squatting this thing with, say, a Murder, and that Murder's broadside potential grows significantly. It could similarly be squadroned with an Acheron to augment the dorsal lances of the Acheron, but really the best place for it is, again, with another Cardinal. if you can manage it, because this thing has prow torpedoes, and torpedoes are very rare in the Chaos Fleet. Having a cruiser-mounted, non-grand cruiser source for a Strength 6 torpedo, and not having to go and use Infidel Raiders, is invaluable. So, if you can manage to get 6 other Chaos Cruisers on the board, and then bring on these 2 for that's going to be a sizable fleet, you can actually still fit that into a 1500 point list, but you're not going to have that many carriers. But I digress. You will have 2 cruiser vessels with with chaos level speeds, damn good turrets, and really solid firepower, synchronizing about as good as a pair of murders with a lot more flexibility. The Cardinal class cruiser almost certainly did not make it into the Orange Book on the basis of all ships that are Imperial that were given the Chaos format were effectively rejected in the end. They probably wanted the game to have a little bit more standardization and in regards to the Imperial fleets and the Chaos fleets, and mixing and matching those miniatures was probably a big no-no. Similarly, in order to maintain the balance of the Chaos fleet to prevent the Cardinal from providing it torpedoes in a cruiser slot and plugging up a giant tactical hole, which was meant to be left open, was probably one of the reasons why it never made it into the Orange Rulebook. And on the Imperial side, they did not want something to basically render the Dauntless useless. Because ultimately, if this ship did exist, this ship would have rendered the light cruiser pointless because it has the same base speed and outclasses the Dauntless in firepower in every way possible. So if you want to use this in a Chaos or an Imperial fleet, you will have to use reserve rules for the Imperial Navy, which means 3 other cruisers. Now, that's not too hard. You have access to a lot of super cheap cruisers in the form of light cruisers in the Imperial Navy. For Chaos, it's a little harder because you have to utilize them as reserve rules for Imperial trader vessels, which are in the rules for the Chaos list. You'll have to read them, but recognize that it's not going to be as easy for the Chaos fleet to take it. But it is a fun source of torpedoes. Ultimately, for Chaos, if I want cruiser-based torpedoes, I'm going to take a repulsive. Plain and simple. Or I'm going to instead take a bunch of Infidel Raiders because I can do a lot of this stuff with other ships. But if you don't have access to those ships, but you can make a bunch of Cardinals, well, by all means, have fun. Have a lot of fun. All right, everyone. I want to thank BFG Noob in Australia for supporting this channel, and I am happy to do this for anybody who is willing to donate. Consider this to be a premium service for those kind individuals that donate an adequate amount to the channel and the future of the channel. And I hope to see you all in the next video.